Hi, I'm Sonicguru, and welcome to another episode of Blue Blur. This time we're looking back on a previous theory and delving deeper into time travel, dimensions, and multiple timelines. Sonic the Hedgehog, also known as Sonic 2006 because of the year it was released, and not to be confused with the first game of the same name, needs little to no introduction. It is considered one of the worst games in Sonic's 25-year-long history. But for those not caught up, Sonic 06 was to be the next installment of the franchise for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, celebrating Sonic's 15th anniversary. Taking advantage of the next-gen hardware and the Havoc physics engine, Sega intended for Sonic the Hedgehog to be a soft reboot to the series, citing, "What if Sonic existed in the real world?" What followed was nothing short of a mess, preceded by a series of unfortunate events from Yuji Naka resigning as the head of Sonic Team and executive producer, to the development team being split into two to work on Sonic and the Secret Rings for Nintendo Wii. What was once an ambitious title was now a race against time to finish before deadline. In this time, Sonic Team reportedly ignored quality assurance bug reports just to have the game ready for Christmas 2006, regardless of the consequences. These consequences were the overwhelming negative reception and the destabilization of a once dedicated fanbase. Complaints include long frequent load times, a poorly written story, bad voice direction and dialogue, bugs and glitches being riddled throughout the game, and a camera that worked against the player. The only silver lining fans took away from this game was its ending. Throughout the game's narrative, Mephiles is trying to reunite with Iblis, which was sealed within Princess Elise by her father after a botched experiment to control the time powers of Solaris, which resulted in it being split in two. Sonic, Shadow, and Silver are sent traveling across the city of Soleanna and through time between present and future, with the latter two hedgehogs going to the past trying to stop both deities as well as saving the princess from Eggman's scheme to control time itself. Unfortunately, Mephiles gained the upper hand and killed Sonic, thus releasing the flames of Iblis and rejoining to form Solaris, a super-dimensional life form and a god of time. After reforming Solaris and being defeated by Sonic, Shadow, and Silver in their super forms with Chaos Control, Elise and Sonic travel to a point in the past where they find the Flames of Disaster, Solaris' original form. Elise realizes that if she puts out the flames, Solaris will never exist, but she and Sonic will never have met. After much hesitation and despair about them not ever meeting, Sonic convinces Elise to put out the flame, thus eliminating Solaris from existence once and for all. Time reboots back to the Festival of the Sun, only Eggman does not attack this time round. In effect, none of the game's events ever actually happened. Until Sonic Generations, where Sonic travels through Crisis City, fights Silver, and Blaze making mention of seeing that world again. I made mention before the possibility of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 either being a sequel or a prequel to Sonic Rush, specifically with Blaze the Cat appearing in both games with a different origin. But with the inclusion of Crisis City in Sonic Generations, what if Sonic is indeed a sequel that formed at the end of Sonic 06? To see how this could be possible, we have to understand how and what happened. As we all know, both games involve time travel to key points in time, but also a form of time compression. This is why we see many points of time in one area, such as the White Void and the Time Rift in Soleanna. How time travel was achieved worked differently. The Time Meter was able to amass a void of time in a small space by traveling between them and tearing the fabric of reality, hence the White Void. Mephiles, on the other hand, being the intelligence of Solaris, was able to create portals at will, as can Eggman, who created a time machine based on the failed Solaris project. The final way that was shown is that two users have to induce chaos control in the same space, causing a tear in space and time, though this does bring up the question as to how they know where and when they are traveling to. One can assume that they concentrate on a specific time and place like in Sonic SAM, though that does not excuse Shadow and Silver's time portal. As I've mentioned before, after Solaris' defeat at the hands of the three Super Hedgehogs, Solaris was erased from time by Elise, thus restarting the events from that point onwards. But this would conclude that the future where Silver originates from no longer exists, right? Well, no. As seen in Dragon Ball Z, Trunks' future still exists, as does Silver's. Traveling to the past and changing the events does indeed create a new timeline of events leading up to the present. but this does not create a paradox as one would easily assume, but a new universe. With Silver and Trunks traveling back to the future, or present in their case, they are crossing over into another universe. Parallel universes and a multiverse theory have been researched, and it is said that for each choice we make, a new universe is created. From traveling to the past and changing destiny, Silver and Trunks have disconnected themselves from time and no longer at risk from causality. With this in mind, it is easy to deduce that the future we see in Sonic 06 and Generations is in fact a separate timeline, split from the point of Solaris' flame being put out. But what about Blaze the cat? As I have stated before in a previous episode, Blaze had been sent into another dimension at the end of Silver's story by absorbing and sealing Iblis within her. With Solaris being a dimensional deity with powers over time, it can be assumed that time restarted in the Soul dimension as well and gave Blaze a new beginning. It is said, however, that Sonic, Shadow and Silver are the only ones who vaguely remember the Solaris event. But with a brief merging of timelines and Blaze recognizing Crisis City, it can be said that she remembers too, but again, vaguely, as all four characters have travelled through time, Silver more than others. The only argument to be made against this is Silver's story in Sonic Rivals and Rivals 2, where he comes from a future destroyed by a dimensional being named Ifrit, not Iblis, released by Eggman Nega. There is also the fact that in Sonic Colors DS, Silver states the future he comes from is good and not wrecked by a fierce deity. In conclusion, the possibility of multiple timelines may not have been Sega's original intention, but comparisons to Dragon Ball Z are apparent and Sega has made them public. But the idea of there being a cohesive timeline is far-fetched, as many events seem to take place next to or overlap each other. Whether you want to believe that the events of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 are erased or made into a separate timeline is up to you, but we can all agree, it was a bad game.